Hi, a film that I watched last weekend as I carry on journeying through the filmography of Jacques Tati was Trafic, his 1971 comeback picture. Following the failure of Playtime in 1967, he had been desperate for work and wound up securing a contract with a Dutch financier to produce another Hulo film for the local market, originally for television, but was then released theatrically. The film is another Ulo story with the uh, inventor now working for a car company and having designed a camping car which incorporates all kinds of useful gadgets and facilities, allowing you to have a holiday on the go. And his company is to transport the vehicle to a car show in Amsterdam. And the film follows Hulo's journey along with that of his colleagues, getting simply from Paris to Amsterdam over the course of a few days. Assisted occasionally by an American PR woman whose grasp of French and Dutch is extremely slender, and getting sidetracked in various other problems along the way as their truck breaks down, as people take an interest in the camping car and that holds things up, and other drivers get into all sorts of other escapades. I found it to be extremely disappointing. Um, the strength of Playtime, I think, was in establishing characters and then seeing them through the whole day, of seeing them against this environment of mechanized Paris as they gradually unbend. And we have a long lead time, a long tail through which to observe them. The vast majority of the supporting characters in Trafic appear very briefly, and there's very little structure to the whole film. There's very little sense of the geography of the journey. Sometimes they've made it across the border into the Netherlands. Sometimes they're still in Belgium. It's hard to work out what's going on. There's very little sense of urgency as well. We know already that the car show has started, and we frequently cut back to the single staff member sitting in the empty space intended to be occupied by the company's stall, waiting for them to turn up. But Ulo and the PR woman and the mechanic who's traveling with them seem to be entirely unconcerned about such things. Ulo gets sidetracked and winds up driving someone home and trying to break into their house to let them in. And all these side plots seem to be going on despite an obvious urgency that's required by the story. And it's wound up at the end by revealing that the PR woman got the date wrong and she's arrived on the date that she thinks the expo is starting. And actually, it's the day that it's finished and all the cars have already gone. It it's just really disappointing that at this point Tati's career is proverbially running on fumes. He seems to have completely exhausted himself creatively in producing his masterpiece of Playtime, and Trafic is just trying to force something out. There's little of the humanity, there's little of the warmth that the previous Hulo films and Jour de Fête have shown. Um, it's all gags, and the gags aren't even that funny. Nailing down Ulo into a specific job, a specific environment, I think has been a mistake. We never see the inside of his house in Mon Oncle. In Jour de Fête, he's on holiday. In Les Vacances, he's on holiday. In Playtime, he's on a business trip. He's always away from wherever he is comfortable. He's always out of his element. Here he is. We see him in his office. We see him involving in his work. He's always he should be in his own environment, and yet he's still at odds with things. Um, as I say, there's no continuity with the characters. Everything is very thin, and there's no strength. The relationship with him and the PR woman. The problem is that the PR woman is both incredibly annoying and wildly out of her depth, and doesn't seem to realize it. Unlike the woman Ulo meets in Playtime, who's a tourist and who seems to have an affinity with her surroundings or a self awareness. The PR woman, who isn't named, um, doesn't and is annoying and irritating. And I don't understand why at the end of the film she and Hulu are going off together to the railway station, aside from simply going to the same destination. It's a deeply disappointing film. It was the last Ulo production, and it's really showing how dire the straits of Tati's career were. That he was reduced to just churning out something so weak and poorly conceived and unfunny. The film is not funny. Les Vacances and Playtime are funny. Mon Oncle, which I found disappointing, is still pretty funny, and you can at least tell, oh, that's a good joke. Even if I'm not laughing, that's a clever joke. The jokes aren't clever; they're just nothing. It's forced and uninteresting, and it's a real shame.